Before we jump into the episode today, I want to share something with you from my heart. First of all, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I really can't tell you how much your support means to me. We've been doing the podcast now for almost 4 years. I can't even believe it. And I'm so grateful for each and every single one of you that listens, shares an episode with your friends, sends me a DM or a text message letting me know how an episode resonated with you or any aha moments. Seriously, I couldn't be more grateful to be able to create this podcast. It has been such a blessing in my life, and I love hearing the ways it's been able to provide value in yours as well. One thing you might not know is how much work it takes to be consistent with a podcast. In fact, did you know that the majority of podcasts don't make it past episode number 10? And we are well beyond that. And it's just a lot thinking of the episodes, recording them, editing them, managing the guests, making sure that everything runs smoothly and gets uploaded consistently and regularly. And so that's why I have created an amazing opportunity for you to support the podcast monetarily. And in exchange for that, you will get exclusive premium subscriber content. So for as little as $3 a month, you can become a premium subscriber of the podcast. And every month I will upload new voice-guided workouts and breathwork meditation audio for you. So that way you can work out with me, coaching you in your ears. You can also take a moment to reduce your stress and relax and come down and ground down with one of my breathwork audios. So if that is on your heart to support the podcast for as little as $3 a month to become a premium podcast subscriber, I can't tell you how much that means to me and the growth of this podcast. I appreciate you. If you're interested, click the link in the description, become a premium podcast subscriber, new content every month, and while supplies last, I'll send you an exclusive podcast coffee mug so you can have your self-love and sweat coffee every morning. I appreciate you. Now let's get into the show. Welcome to Self-Love and Sweat, the podcast, the place where you'll get inspired to live your life unapologetically, embrace your perfect imperfections, break down barriers, and do what sets your soul on fire. I'm your host, Lunden Souza. Hey, have you grabbed your free Self-Love and Sweat monthly calendar yet? This calendar is so amazing. It comes right in your inbox every single month to help you have a little nugget of wisdom, a sweaty workout, a mindset activity, just a little something to help keep you focused and motivated and keep that momentum towards your goals. So every day when you get this calendar, you'll see a link that you can click that will lead to a podcast episode or a workout or something that will be very powerful and quick to read. And then you'll also see on the top left corner of every single day, there's a little checkbox in the calendar. And what that is that's for your one thing. You can choose one thing every month, or it can be the same, something that you want to implement, and make this something that you can easily implement, like daily meditation or getting a certain amount of steps or water, for example, and staying hydrated, and even taking your supplements. This can be something if you want to get more regular doing a particular habit and routine, you can choose what that checkbox means. So if you want your Self-Love and Sweat free monthly calendar delivered right to your inbox every month on the first of the month, go to lifelikelunden.com/calendar, fill out the form really quickly, and you will have your calendar in your inbox within a few short minutes. That's lifelikelunden, lifelikelunden.com/calendar. Go get yours for free and enjoy this episode. Welcome back to the podcast and Self-Love and Sweat Radio, wherever you're listening to this. So excited about our guest today, Carey Davidson. I met Carey or connected with her, because even though I'm looking at you, Carey, on the screen here, we still actually haven't met in person, which is what I love about just this online space and the way that we can connect and social media, podcasting, all the things. But I connected with Carey because my best friend, Allie, we've been best friends since we were 2. We've just been doing life together our whole lives. And we read books together, we share insights together. And it seems like, yeah, we have these like ebbs and flows of life around the same time-ish. And so she reached out to me because her and I had just been really evolving and growing together. And she's like, I read this book, The Five Archetypes. Have you heard of it before? And she sent me the screenshot of the book cover. And I was like, oh, one time I was at a seminar and your book was like among other books on this table. And I remember thumbing through it and looking through it a little bit. So it rang a bell and it was familiar to me. And she was like, she'd be a great guest for your podcast. You should take the quiz and get your archetypes, figured out. She let me know what hers were. And so that's what I did. I went to Instagram. I found Carey on Instagram. I was like, hey, my best friend said I need to connect with you. She's found a lot of help in her life and in her evolution as a woman through your book and through the learnings about herself, through what was revealed to her through her archetypes. And so, yeah, and you said yes. And I was like, let's do it. So I reached out and just kind of let you know. And here we are, which I think is so cool because, I love my best friend. I love that journey that we're on. And if she says, there's a great piece of content out there that you need to read and need to be involved in, I'm on it. And so I'm grateful that you responded. I'm grateful that you agreed to be here with us today. Carey Davidson, welcome to the podcast. Hey.
Thank you, Lunden. That was beautiful. I love best friends and how they help us grow and how we learn from each other. So that's a beautiful story. I'm glad that that's how I made my way into your life.
Yeah, I love it too. It's cool. I love looking back at some of these stories or even, people listening. It's like we sometimes think, oh, I want to reach out to someone, but like, what if they think that's weird or they don't respond and I'm like, whatever, I'm just going to reach out. And I always operate under the principle, like grownups can always say no. So like, if you didn't want to do it, you could say no and that's okay. And the world keeps turning and we keep moving. So I'm grateful that you said yes and that we're here today. Firstly, just, share with our audience a little bit more about you. And how you got started and what fueled that fire, which I know is one of your main archetypes that you shared with me before, fueled that fire to create these 5 archetypes.
Yeah. Well, I have always been curious about relationships and always curious about what makes some fantastic and what makes others fraught with friction. And I couldn't understand it. I knew I was just tossed around in it. And I grew up, I went to college, ended up going into human resources. And I was running human resources at Columbia University at the college. And I started to see a whole bunch of people not necessarily sitting in their power, getting along well, getting things done. There was a lot of friction and a lot of miscommunication. And in that space, I'm like, I bet there's something out there that can fix this, that people don't have to suffer so much in the work environment, not understanding each other. And I got all these off the shelf, one size fits all communication, management, leadership training things I brought to the staff. But, the people in the classroom would have some revelations. They would be like, oof, that's cool. I get it. But then when the proverbial hits the fan in those
I can on the podcast, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, all things. All we have to do is press the explicit button on the podcast and then we're good.
Okay. Maybe that'll get more takers. What are they saying on that podcast? So when the shit hits the fan, it doesn't matter if you have a psychologically safe environment. We don't know how to find our words. We don't know what to do when we feel uncomfortable. And there's no one who teaches us that. It's not part of any curriculum of life. And we're just kind of tossed into the mix of our environment, and we kind of we just have to kind of wing it. And, so I went through HR, then I started running nonprofits for at-risk youth, hoping that I could deliver something to them that would help kids flourish and not have to struggle through difficult relationships. But still, I was finding the same struggle. And I learned about these 5 elements in Chinese medicine through a pediatrician, a dear friend and colleague of mine. And I asked him, I'm like, every child on the planet needs access to this because it's a model for exactly how to thrive in the face of challenge. And so we started a nonprofit together. And at that point, I had an integrative wellness center I started in New York. And my adult clients came to me for Ayurvedic nutrition. I'm a Reiki master, so they come for energy work and vibroacoustic sound therapy. And the one thing that worked the best was 5 archetypes, these 5 elements, giving people the tools to understand themselves and know how to thrive and change their situation when they felt stuck. And so I ended up, one of my clients was an author, and her publisher asked to be introduced to me so that I could write a book with them. And so I wrote a book with Simon & Schuster. It came out in 2020, right alongside COVID. and the world blew up. And I started teaching this primarily. I had to shut down the center. We were in lockdown and I was not reopening. And so I started teaching. Tony Robbins found the work. I presented at one of his conferences, and then it just started to explode from there. I work in companies. I have one-on-one clients, and work in school systems still with the nonprofit, and teaching people how to recognize when they're stuck and what to do to get out of it.
I love that. And I think everybody listening right now can think of a moment or is in a moment right now where they felt stuck and they didn't know what to do and they weren't sure what the next step to get unstuck was. And maybe what another friend used to get unstuck isn't working for them either. And so really being able to offer tools that help us understand ourselves more is so freaking cool. Let's talk about briefly the 5 archetypes. And then what we're going to do for those listening today is I took my archetype quiz and I told Carey, no holes barred. Like, let's analyze my archetypes, ask any questions. Let's like dive deep in this so that you guys can, learn more about this work and how it specifically can pertain to everyday life, relationships with ourselves and others. And then also, inspire others to figure out what their archetypes are and learn more about themselves. So let's start there first. What are the 5 archetypes and what's maybe like the cliff notes or the gist of each one that we can kind of highlight first?
Yeah, for sure. So the 5 archetypes correspond to nature. They are fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. We all have all 5. We all have all 5 in different amounts. According to Chinese medicine philosophy, we have one that's our primary, and it kind of leads the way we interact with the world. And it tells us how we're going to get stuck, how we're going to get out of it, and what our growth path is. And it tells us like what we're going to need in order to recover from the stories we're telling ourselves about that guy we just went on a date with and why he didn't text us back.
And I love that you said the story that we're telling ourselves about, because that's really what it is.
Yeah.
It's like, you could say, oh, it was just like, it was what it was, or you could make this whole story. And I love that you just had to highlight that there, because those stories, anything will keep us stuck. It's those stories.
Yeah. 100%. Again, so we all have these 5. I will give you the Cliff Notes version of each of the 5 that pertains to, like, we all have all these parts of ourselves, but I'll give you the Cliff Notes of each will be, if that's your primary, you overdo this thing in your life. And it's also your strength. So fire's gift to the world is joy and hope and optimism. Fire needs to be seen, loves to be celebrated. Fire loves touch and intimacy and romance. Fire's biggest fears in the world revolve around loss of love or loss of connection. And when they have the story that they are losing love or losing connection, they go into big panic, big drama, big anxiety. Then we have Earth. Earth's gift to the world is unity and community and connection, like being together, empathy. Earth people, primary Earth needs to be needed. Their biggest fears revolve around the idea of being abandoned. And when they feel abandonment might be happening, they go into worry, obsessive worry, and overwhelm and rumination, so much so that they become inert, they become stuck. Then you have metal. Metal's biggest gift to the world is value. They're able to innately know what's a valuable way to spend your time or what's a valuable thing to do, and to get rid of the rest, to only focus on what's that diamond in the rough. Their biggest fears revolve around being wrong, making a mistake. When they feel too much chaos or too much change, they go into over-focusing on the details and losing sight of the big picture, or over-focusing on what was wrong rather than what's right. Then you have water. Water's gift to the world is peace. We need more of that. Water people, they are philosophers, dreamers, poets. They're deep thinkers. They love to meditate. They love to think. They can't tolerate socializing too much. So they tend to be a little bit socially awkward, uncomfortable making eye contact. Their biggest fears revolve around being misunderstood. And when they go into those fear states, they tend towards over isolation and even depression. And then we have wood. So wood's gift to the world is freedom. And it's freedom from the obstacles we perceive, that we believe we have. Wood sees an obstacle as an opportunity to do something different, to try a new way, as if it's a challenge, a fun challenge or a game. Wood can't tolerate people or things getting in their way of getting things done fast. And when they do have things getting in their way of getting things done fast, their stress state shows up as anger, like a burst of loudness, a yell or a push. And what else about wood? I think that was it. I'm like, did I cover them all? We got them.
So good. Okay, then we get to dive into mine.
Yes, we do.
Cool. And
yeah,
you have my results in front of me. Mine are in my email. I need to pop them open, but I remember when I first took my quiz and then I shared it with my best friend, Allie. She was like, oh, yeah, I thought that you would. I don't remember specifically which one she said. It might have been wood. I don't remember which one my primary. Do you have the list in front of you?
I do.
What mine is?
I do.
Okay, cool. Because I know I saved it, but you have it accessible faster. Is my first one wood?
It is.
Yeah, that was the one that she said. She goes, when I was reading through this, that's exactly what I thought that you were. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I kind of, looked in a little bit of the PDF of kind of what I was sent and kind of the details about that. But I mean, she's known me since I was 2. So for her, she was like, oh yeah, that's what I thought you were,
I love that. So let me tell you a little bit about when I work with somebody. The assessment results are slightly useless out of context. They don't, if you take a personality test of, I don't know, there's so many different personality tests that you could take.
Yeah.
Many of them will give you a report. As soon as you have your assessment results, they're like, here's you, here's all the things about you, here's how you are in relation, whatever. It just tells you this complete.
You're like, okay, but what do I do with this information?
Right.
Like, thank you.
Right. Right. So the 5 archetypes work. It's almost the exact reverse. It's like, it doesn't tell you anything unless you have a problem to solve. It's a rubric for problem solving. So if you plug in the challenge and it gives you exactly how to flourish in the face of that challenge. like step by step, simple things to do with the body, the physical, the cognitive, behavioral, social, emotional, spiritual, every layer, because it's an Eastern practice, which is we believe that we can't separate the human. We're not just our psychology, because your psychology is going to change if you didn't eat breakfast. Or if somebody really, you had someone supposed to show up at 9 and they didn't show up, you're not going to be that type. So,
Right.
so my question for you is there something pressing in your life that you would love to change? Is there some area where you feel like you're misaligned or you're feeling stuck?
That I feel misaligned or feeling stuck in. So where I'm at right now, when I think of that question, so I worked at worked for a company in Austria, lived in Europe for a long time, did all these big events, wore all the hats, did all the things, full gas, right? Then that worked until it didn't. Hormones, just so much disarray, right? So I worked on really slowing things down, really dove into the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, have been meditating with him a lot, gone to a lot of his events and retreats, learned to love the present moment, the now. Okay. And then I run my coaching business, my podcast. I just signed a contract for a year or two to run these brain balance centers here in Utah, which is non-medicated intervention for social, emotional, cognitive, struggles for students and adults, right? So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to run the centers in Utah, run the enrollment, the families, right? And then I'm also helping or working with 15 of my friends to start a community called NABA, which stands for the Natural Art of Being Alive. All the things, right? So where I'm at now is I'm like, okay, I know that I can do hard things, but I am not going to do it the way that I did before because that was exhausting. That was so much, right? So I feel like I'm in this space of like, I'm a little bit scared to press the gas because I don't know. I don't want to press it too hard because I remember what that looked like before. And I'm looking and I'm like, I got a lot on my plate. It all resonates. I've got really good at setting boundaries, saying no to what doesn't, and I'm really excited about this like bouquet in front of me. It's like when you buy a bouquet and a lot of them are still closed and they haven't bloomed yet. And you're like, oh yeah, I know it's going to be so awesome. And I was actually laughing with my friend Kevin today. I was like, I know it's going to work out. I don't know how, but like, I just know, so where I'm at right now, where I feel stuck is I'm like, I want to go, but I'm a little bit scared to go too far and burn out. So I'm like in this dance of like, what can I take from that? The past time I've pushed the pedal to the metal, but in a way that did not serve me. So now I feel like that, I almost like, it's like a physical, I can't say it with words, but with my body, it's like like you're like, people listening can't hear it, but I'm like going and stopping. I'm kind of like, and now I want to learn how to nurture myself and crush it. I know it's possible, but I'm just a little bit scared of the past and I don't want to copy paste that. So that's where I feel a little bit stuck is sometimes I'm not sure what the next best action is because I don't want it to snowball into too many things that's going to get me to that point before. So that's what's really happening like now.
Wow. So can you give me an example, like a specific example of what you don't want to happen this time?
I don't want to go unconscious. I don't want to be doing all the things, wearing all the hats. What I see now and where I'm really wanting to pivot is like, I recently read this book that I love too. It's called Who, Not How. And I think I've been so caught up in the how and being the doer of all the things. So I don't want to, the thing I'm scared of is I'm going to go in and be like, I can just do it rather than being like, no, who's the best person to do this? And how can I lead that person, bring that person in to then help support the mission instead of me trying to do it all on my own.
Have you ever Have you ever had to manage people?
Mm-hmm.
And did you find that it was challenging to delegate and have them actually do what you needed them to do?
My old story that I've definitely hung the hat up on, that I can look back on, is nobody can do it as good as I can. So I need to do it because they're not that good. And it's just like, ugh. But now I just really love people, and I almost don't even like care if they can't do it as well as me, as long as they're growing and we're learning. And it's, I mean, obviously you want the person to be pretty proficient at what they're doing, but there needs to be, I'm learning to enjoy now that training process. Like, okay, let's look at it again. All right, let's talk about it, because I know when I'm learning something, someone can't just tell me and walk away, but that's kind of the way that I was at first. Cause I'm like, just do it. Okay. You couldn't figure it out. All right, I'm going to do it. And I don't like that. That doesn't work. It just doesn't. And so the new story that I'm really leaning into, and I catch myself a little bit also, is just like, no, it's about that connection. It's about fostering growth and people being part of the mission, not needing to check the boxes,
Mm-hmm. Um, so you described this kind of pulsing, like you show, in the visual, it was like moving and stopping, and moving and stopping. When you feel that drive to move, what's the mental part of that? Like, what is the I wanna like? What is the mind saying when the body moves forward? Like, what is it that you're going after?
I'm excited. Momentum, growth.
Mhm.
I've been a part of startups before. I've started things from ground, up, where it's like, it's exciting. That pursuit is exciting. That goal is exciting. And I'm excited. It's not, before it was like, do it because I think I'm supposed to, because that was like the, work is your worth was like our family story that I've worked to rewrite. Now it's like, no, I'm just excited. I like to serve and provide value. So there's excitement and there, but then I'm like, wait, is that the right thing to start with first? Are you trying to, there's just a little like reservation. And I want to go after it, but there's just a little, it's kind of like if you've been like, yeah, hurt in a relationship before or heartbroken, then you're a little bit more reserved going into that next relationship. That's kind of how I feel. I'm like,
Mhm.
that hurts. But I'm like, you have way better tools this time. I know that there's more resources available now, but there's still that fear
Mhm.
of the hurt and the pain.
Mhm. So it's interesting. You said, when you described what that forward body movement was in words, you said momentum, growth, upward pursuit, goal, excited. And all those words are wood correlates. Like, that's what wood does. Wood
And I'm
is,
like,
yes. So wood is this, if you can imagine us like this coil that's ground all the way up to the heavens, and it's always moving up. There's always momentum in it. That's what is in the body of a primary wood. And it needs momentum in order to feel safe. And so there's a drive, there's always a drive. And the reason for that, like, the frustration in, their biggest fear or stress state is anyone or anything getting in the way of moving forward fast, because that coil it needs to move, it needs forward upward action all the time. And so a little somebody standing in the way and saying very slowly, Lunden, can we talk about something over a 4-hour lunch, is like, oh, ow. It can be physically painful to a wood
and
person.
yeah, and that's something that meditation has helped me with tremendously, is
Yeah.
like being in the moment, listening to the person, not trying to, that's probably one of the biggest, one of the two biggest side effects of meditation I've noticed, because when you did that, I was like, oh yeah, before, like, and there's even parts of me that still kind of live where you're like, no, shut up. Like, keep talking, it's no good deal. Like, but yes, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's great. I love that. So water, so these elements come in a cycle, and they always live in, like, if you start with fire on top, then clockwise it's fire, earth, metal, water, and then wood. The element that comes right before our primary nurtures us so that we're not impulsive. And water is the one that comes right before wood. Water is hydration, sleep, meditation, listening, thinking, using your imagination, your creativity, pausing, waiting, all of those slow things that are all about eternity, something that's lasting forever. Water also corresponds to the truth. And it's interesting, the truth is about what is lasting forever. What is integrity? What are we plugging into that's real and unchanging? And water is also corresponding to the depths of winter when everything's frozen and nothing's moving. And it also represents the element that across the world, about 90% of people have it as their lowest. And so if you think about what's happening in our own personal mental health, like around the world, our relationships around the world, communities, and globally, if we have lowest water to that degree, we're not pausing, we're not listening, we're not taking a breath before we make a decision. We're believing all the stories we tell ourselves, or all the things we hear in our consciousness, from other people as well. Okay, so now, if your lowest element is water and your highest is wood, which is what your results look like, your wood energy really needs that boost of water in order to not feel that pulse that you were showing me before, that impulsive stop, start. That water, that infusion of consistent water will help you be more smooth and fluid in being able to notice when it's time to use that high wood energy, and then when it's time to kind of slow down. It's all like you were saying, it makes me feel like when we start learning to drive a car, we don't know how heavy to push on the gas or the brake, and you're getting whiplash.
Exactly. That's a good way to describe it too, for people that were listening and didn't see me moving. It's like, just have someone drive and then press on the brakes fast. Yeah. That's what I was doing.
Yeah. So I love that you've been working with Joe, because these meditations are so important for wood people. It's important for everybody, but what it gives you is that smoother way of moving in and pulling out, and being able to have that internal voice kind of watching you and giving you that, okay, hold on a minute, let's think about this before we take action. And and it will ultimately allow you to see the story that you're creating as you're creating it, and eventually get you to the point where you can predict it before you ever step into a room, and prepare yourself and the other people in the room for a much higher conscious, growth-minded, empathetic engagement, which is where we'll go. And that's what I hope to teach you today.
Growth-minded, empathetic engagement. Yeah. I love that. And I'll echo agree, affirm what you said about that. I have to meditate. I have to. And sometimes I'll fight it. And as Dr. Joe will say, tame the dog, sit, stay, and I feel that deeply. And then also when you mentioned, it's like you're almost like the observer of the thought and you're like watching it all play out before deciding then to make that decision. And that, especially recently, I'd say within the last the last 6 months or so, really resonates, being able to have that different perspective and observe that more clearly beforehand.
Yeah. And that is very hard to do. Now that's a quality of water, the water element in us. The water element allows us to sit still and observe our own thoughts as if they're just objects in our awareness, not having anything to do with the truth. Like we will each of the primary elements has a very specific, predictable perspective that they will take under stress. And if you understand what that perspective is going to be, you know that it's fixed minded. You know that it has nothing to do with truth beforehand. And so when those very specific thoughts pop in, you know not to believe the story you're creating about it. You know to have humor and kind of be like, girl, there goes your wood again. It's like, what are you doing? There goes my Southern. Holy crap. I grew up in Tennessee. I guess like the little voice in my head still has a Southern accent.
I love it. Yeah, it just popped out, came out, and so cute, so sweet. I love it. I love the Southern accent. Um, yeah, yeah. Turn your wood down, calm it down. Yeah, there's just,
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your primary wood in relationship to this whole idea of overachieving sometimes, or working so hard that you burn out. So this wood energy, it craves momentum, and it can when it's not balanced by the other four elements, see that the only positive outcome is an intense, engagement, a big challenge, a big win. It has to be audacious in order for it to be good and positive. That is wood in the most fixed minded it can possibly be. And so if we understand that about our, for any wood primaries, if you understand that if you overvalue audacious action in any circumstances, you're going towards burnout. It's not the best use of all of your energy. And not only does it harm inside your mind and your body, you are actually catalyzing discomfort in all the other four types around you. So if you're supervising, or if you're not just supervising, if you're working in any kind of team or community, and it sounds like you are, both of these, the Nava it's a community, and running these centers in Utah, you're working with lots of people. And so each one of us, if we overuse our primary, we create pain in all the other four types, and we don't even realize it. And so that's what's really special about the five archetypes and different about all these, from other systems, is that it's a system of understanding the interrelatedness of all things. And how if I am not balancing out my primary, I am catalyzing pain and disharmonious relationships and communication with anyone who comes into my field, anyone who's working with me on anything. Because my big wood energy makes fire feel like they're not smart enough, makes earth feel like I'm not needed, makes metal feel like I always make mistakes, and makes water feel like I must not be wise. That's just exactly what happens. You can predict it. It happens every time. And so knowing that not only do I help myself be better at everything if I balance out my primary, I'm also bringing harmony to the collective with every time I choose to balance myself. Because think about all the people we interact with every day and the domino effect, the ripple effect. Like if you're nice to the dude who gave you coffee, then he's going to go home and be nicer to his kids, who are then going to go back and be able to school the next day and feel more confident about, taking that test. And then it just, ever expands. So what is this like? How do you know if your primary is wood? How do you know if you're in that strength state where you are catalyzing the best in yourself and others? Or if you're off into, that like way out into the reactive space. So the spectrum of strength and stress for wood, the stress state is being addicted to your plan needing to be the plan that is executed on. Now the problem with that is that wood people have kick-ass plans. Like, you really do. Your gift in this world is to know how to execute. If there's a burning building, you will get us out of that building fast, unscathed. You don't want to count on the earth person to get us out of the building. They'll want to kumbaya and have a little song and dance first.
Not the right person.
No. So the problem is that our gift is also the thing that has the potential to create the most pain. And so can you sit with it and be okay, like knowing that, well, maybe my plan is the best plan, but what if the goal of this interaction in this meeting, let's say you're like in a staff meeting, or you're supervising people, or you're in a brainstorming session, whatever it is, what if maybe you do have an intuitive sense of what the plan should be, but if you're tied to the best outcome, being the result of your audacious action, you're creating a situation where no one else gets to learn, and no one else gets to grow, and no one else gets to try and go outside their comfort zone. And how do we build connection? How do we build a thriving community at work or anywhere? It's like bringing everybody together. We're in a situation where we don't know how to connect anymore. We don't know how to connect with ourselves, with each other. And the very thing we're good at, we so overdo it and we so over rely on it, that we're blinded to the fact that when we overdo it, we harm everyone around us. And we don't know why our relationships don't work, because it's so confusing. I'm just being myself. What do you mean I can't be myself anymore? So it's like, we get into that uncomfortable space. So you, as a primary wood, your journey to strength in this area that you want to grow in is to recognize when you're addicted to your plan, and then be able to move towards the other end of the spectrum. Your highest expression of yourself is humility. Is humility around, like, what in the world makes me think that I know everything on the planet and that my plan is the only plan? Like, what if? So if you can go into your own water is deep creativity and listening. And so that's like how that looks in a meeting would be, I've got this really kick-ass plan in my head, but I really want to nurture this team. I want to build rock stars so that I have sleep assurance. Like, I may be I'm the director, and I don't want to have to always be in charge of everything. I don't want everyone to have to call me for the plan. You're building little woods. You're building people who can come up with their own plan. And so you going into your water in that state is here's a challenge, everybody. I'm really curious to hear how you would solve this. Like, what do you think it would take? What do you think it would take to get us, to this stage in 4 weeks? I want to hear it. And you know what? Being really, truly open, the intersection of something new, a new or broader perspective, or just from a different angle, might make your plan 10 times better. But if we're addicted to our plan, we're not listening. And so that's kind of a wood perspective of growth.
Yeah. And that resonates a lot. Especially when I think you said something like overuse of the primary. And so now, knowing what I know about the 5 archetypes, when you asked me what something I was struggling with, whatever. Okay. So what my struggle is like that fear of overuse of the primary, of like, going in and not coming, what did you say? Coming to your water or checking with your water. I don't know what you said specifically, just getting the lingo down. And yes, asking questions to help others maybe come to a better plan, or a plan that you were already kind of thinking of, but helping others feel like we all collaboratively came to that effort instead of, I can think of in school or even in college, whatever, when you'd have group stuff, I'd always be like the leader, this is the plan, this is how we're going to do it. And I can, even when you just said that, it's like, then I'm thinking of the other students who just like went along with it. Cause like, what are they like? I wasn't going to my wood was not going nowhere, you know? And really, yeah, like I said, over the last 6 months, being more observant of that. And then also, you know, maybe speaking to some wood primaries out there too, when you do that, and especially with this work in meditation and expansion and growth and community, it's like you're around people with like really fucking good ideas. So it's like, you better hear them, because it's like sometimes, actually a lot of times I'm like, oh, even better. And like, here's what I was thinking. And how can we like build this even better together? Which is what I found too. And that humility piece has been like, man, yeah, all this while I thought I had like the best ideas and the best plans and my way, but like there's a lot of really cool people, a lot of really cool brains out there, you know, and perspectives. And then when I think about, you know, growing up, and I don't know if our archetypes are, and I didn't ask this, are like if they're like embedded in us or if they're maybe more fostered through our environment, but like I grew up in a family where it was like, this is what we believe, and anybody else that doesn't believe it is weird. This is the way you do it because this is the right way, you know? And it was like, so then I remember, and especially with my friend Allie, her and I have had some of these conversations too, where it was like, I took that with me. So then I went out into the world, and then you're like, why do they do that way? That's weird. That's not the right way, you know, right, wrong, good, bad. There are a lot of duality in the family that I was raised in. And so I think, yeah, whether it's innate and fostered or both, it was like that wood is my primary, but then also this is the way we do it. We do it the right way. They do it the wrong way. So it was like that was just embedded in me. And then until I realized it, I didn't realize it before. Yeah. And like you said, we end up hurting people because we're hitting them over the head with our wood.
Exactly. Bam. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, to your question, according to the Chinese medicine philosophy, we have one, and it remains that we have one primary that remains our primary throughout our lifetime. The other ones kind of ebb and flow as we learn our lessons. Like I bet that, you know, before you started meditating, your water score was probably a lot lower. And before you learned some of the lessons that you've gone through in your life, maybe your wood was even higher. And maybe it's already started to balance itself out a little bit. So, you know, but it's as, you know, the idea of our primary changing is as strange as me saying like, hey, you see the sun in the sky? Well, tomorrow it's going to be a tree. You know, it doesn't change. Like it's nature. It's just our primary nature. But, you know, the other things like, you know, meditation is the highest expression of water. And there are, you know, physical, cognitive, behavioral, emotional, relationship, you know, and spiritual levels of each of these. And what I like about the archetypes is that when you're in an intense moment and you need to know what to do, you need your words. It gives you something to do. It gives you a script. And your meditation will help create the container and like soften the wood energy in you so that it's more flexible, rather than like, imagine a tree with no water. It just cracks. You know, that's what happens to wood with no water. But the elements, you know, it shows me a little bit more about exactly what to tell you to do and how to prepare yourself for every phone conversation, every email you write, every face-to-face, every interview you give. I can tell like how you're going to have a perception of different types of people and who you might likely hire over others and what to look out for in your thought patterns. So one thing, for example, your metal and water are lower than your fire and earth. And And for you as a primary wood, that means that you have a stronger desire or a stronger enjoyment of the output of the creation of something than you do of the quiet time spent thinking about it and planning and putting everything in order to make sure that it's right before it goes out. And so so that can become an impulse. That can become something that you're not aware of consciously. It's just, it feels so damn good to make something happen and to create something that you might do it without thinking about it. And so this can show up.
Or like that at the same time, like that thinking and doing at the same time, where like some people will take, time, and I aspire to be that way because I know that it'll be helpful, but to like plan and then refine the plan and then look, okay, and then do the tasks. And I'm kind of like, all right, bam. And I see the benefit, and that's what it's going to require for me to execute at a high level, but also like a high loving level, let's call it like that, with what I have next. Like there's no way that I can just go and do. Like there needs to be a think box,
It's like a timeout.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would invite you to do is imagine, like, what I love about wood people are visionaries. Like if I tell you to imagine a future, you're like, I'm on it. So I would, let's say, I don't know what your exact timeline is with these projects, but let's imagine that you've started them and you're like 6 months in the future, or 9 months in the future. What is your ideal, like, how do you wake up? How do you feel every day? And what's your ideal kind of situation? Do you have staff? Do you not deal with minutia anymore? Like, what is it? How have you structured your day so that you're thriving?
Yes. So waking up, I'm feeling, energized but grounded, or energized and grounded. I often call that like tree vibes. That's what I tell myself. It's like that grounded, rooted energy, but also very expansive, heart open. I love having my time. I don't want to live in a world where I wake up and then work, right? So I love that time for myself in the morning, just outside, or meditation, just like taking it slow. That was not me historically. It was wake up, go, boom, ride it, and now I'm really loving like that cushion of time for myself in the morning, which has also been a dance to discover, like, okay, how am I going to still protect that, but then still have more responsibility. No, I don't want to do the day-to-day minutia, everyday stuff. And I also want to be the leader that isn't afraid to do things with her team when it's time to get things done, right? I don't want to be like, that's not what I do. If we need to, I need to help you out with something and we need to do the nitty gritty together, I want to be game for that. I want to have the energy. And my 2 words of the year were integrity and endurance. So for me, endurance is like choosing the long path, right? You wouldn't start off sprinting in a marathon. And I think that's where I am in that jerking motion of my body language, is like, I want to be in an endurance, but my body somehow is programmed for the sprint. And I want to like, balance that out a little bit. I love connecting with people one-on-one, especially. So I see myself, building, good personal and professional relationships with those that are on my team and that are working under me. And I know that has a lot less to do with me checking their task list and telling them what to do, as much as it might be a coffee checkup or a walk meeting, or just tapping in with how things are going on in life. So I see myself in this vision, as you mentioned. I'm a very visual person, and I just am like moving around the centers, checking in on how people are doing. How can I support you? Being more of that emotional, grounded support, but then also knowing what needs to be done. So if something needs to get done or someone does need help, like knowing that is how I want to show up. So that visual is kind of me just like floating through the different centers. I know where everyone kind of is stationed or where they work and how to like love on them. I do like feeling like, I love that feeling at the end of the day when you're just kind of like, oh, and you have had a nice shower. I love putting like lavender oils in my shower, and like that end of the day where you're like, oh, I accomplished a lot and I'm tired. Like, thank you, physical body. Like, thank you for, and then also, my fitness and my health and well-being is very, very important to me. So yeah, having my exercise and my movement as part of my day. Even today, I wasn't sure I was going to have that time, but things moved around and I did. And so I had like 30 minutes to be outside and walk and be in the sun a little bit more. And that was beautiful. So being able to create those moments and pockets of time in nature is, yeah, super powerful. And like, I want to, preserve those. I don't want to get from the start of the day to that, at the end of the day, feeling like I went unconscious. So I do want to feel that momentum, that present momentum. I do want to feel, good in my physical body, healthy in my physical body, cognitively focused. And so knowing, when boundaries might need to be set or when I need to retreat or take some time for me to restore and recharge, being mindful of those whispers. And yeah, like I said, my words of the year this year are integrity and endurance. And so for me, integrity is being a woman of my word and doing what I say I'm going to do. And if I can't, then communicating that. If I, can't deliver on time or something doesn't work out, not being afraid to have the hard conversations, not letting things be sticky or awkward because of something, that for me is integrity. And then endurance is, like I said, habits and routines that allow this physical body to be in it for the long run. And so, yeah, the feelings of embodying integrity and endurance throughout the day is what I envision. And even just talking about it right now, it just put my whole body and nervous system in a different state than it was before. Because I believe in my ability to figure things out. I know there's going to be a moment where I'm going to be like, remember when you were just like trying to learn and train and it all came together. So I know that will be there, but that coil that you kind of mentioned has loosened a little bit since discussing and sharing a bit more about what that day could look and feel like. And yeah, the bookends are definitely widened now in terms of when I'll wake up and like the end of the day, like, but we like books. So I'm just going to put some more books in there, but it's the time, of the time spent executing, the time spent in momentum, working and let's say doing is going to be, quite frankly, just more hours. And I need to be mindful of that and cognitive of like integrity and endurance, or like you mentioned, tapping into that water before each email, before each interaction, because I can see how things could just get on autopilot and go, go, go. And I just don't want to be in that unconscious position. I want to feel conscious and aware and present. And I also know what it feels like too to have, well, both ends, but like leaders and bosses who do a really great job of that nourishing, like empowering environment. And then some where you're just like, no one wants to do anything for that person. Like how, so I think I have really good examples on both ends, and I know which end I want to be on. And I also know where I've been. And so being conscious and aware of that for me and for the person I want to be is just, exactly what I want and need.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I like that life. That's delicious. I'll take one of those.
I'm figuring it out.
It's beautiful.
This is our first test run of the week. So I'm figuring it out. It's like a dance, and I'm like, what am I don't know yet.
Yeah.
It'll work itself out as long as I, tap into my water.
Yeah. So here's kind of a container or a way to create that through the 5 archetypes. to make sure it happens. So one thing to remember is the wood mind moves faster than all the others. And the wood mind can get frustrated in a relationship, in an interaction with a team, where you have created strategies, or you've communicated how it is to get done, or how to structure, and other people didn't get it. They need you to slow down and repeat it maybe 17,000 times, or at least it feels that way. And so keep in mind, like from an empathy perspective, that that where we talked about, like, the input elements for you are like metal and water. Those are not your comfort zone. The output, the thing is already happening. The thing is growing. I'm building this thing. Feels much better than all that annoying time being spent with all the details. So this metal and water, the details and the depths of helping people connect to the deeper why, and really invest themselves in these companies and in the missions, will be the pre-planning that will, like, irk you a little bit, but it will give you that freedom that you just described. That wood loves freedom. Wood needs freedom in order to feel safe. And so all that life that you described is the ultimate, desire really for a wood leader. So what does that look like? So in this empathy space, when you delegate, or you tell people how structures are supposed to happen, or how you run a meeting, or how you set up file systems, or whatever it is, that you're designing, remember that that other people will not get it as quickly as you will, and they will need you to communicate it in different ways. And fire people will get afraid of you. Earth people will feel like you don't want to spend time with them, and that they're not really needed. Metal people will think that you think they make mistakes, or they don't move too fast. They don't move fast enough. And water people will start to feel powerless, because wood is so powerful that it can feel that speed, and how quickly you're able to come up with a plan is overbearing for the other four types when they're in stress states. And we all know most people are in stress. Like, it's just not everybody meditates and knows how to de-stress in their own ways. So to have that in mind, and workers want to know that you approve of them, that they're doing a good job. So they're going to over please you, and they're going to over say yes. And they're likely to say, yes, I understand, when they don't. Because wood is very powerful and can be frightening to the other four types. And so, so go into, like, this life that you want requires all that pre-planning that you don't love to do. And the pre-planning includes details of what people can do in order to self-measure whether or not they're doing things right, so that they don't have to always come to you. What happens with a lot of wood leaders is that the staff doesn't believe like they can take risks. They're afraid of risks. Wood is the only one that's not afraid of risks. They're afraid to take risks and do something that you're not going to like. And then when wood is in that coil needing to move fast, they go into anger. And that's what can scare the other types. And they're like, shit, I didn't do it right. And so what happens as a result? They don't ask anymore. And so they do things, and then they do it wrong. And there's no communication happening. And that's just the dance that happens with wood leaders in teams and companies.
Hey, really quick, I want to interrupt the podcast for just a minute to tell you about one of my favorite supplements for hair, skin, nails, digestive, and gut health. And that is Snap Supplements Super Greens with collagen. Now, if you're following me on social media, you've probably seen me post about this a bunch because honestly, this product tastes amazing and it's jam-packed with nutrients, like I said, to support healthy hair, skin, and nails. It helps support detoxification, a healthy immune system, and there's even probiotics in there for a healthy gut. It's non-GMO, no sugar added, soy-free, grass-fed collagen, and every scoop is going to give you 7 grams of protein. And this is why I love it, because it's not like a protein shake. It's just a scoop of powder. It tastes amazing. I put it in water, or if I want more hydration, I'll put it in coconut water and mix it up. And it's like having a nice, refreshing beverage that's packed with a bunch of super greens and protein. So what I'm super excited about is that for listening to the podcast, you'll get this discount here, nowhere else, but for listening to the podcast. You can save 25% off on all your Snap supplement purchases, including the Super Greens with collagen. And you do that by using code Lunden25 at checkout. That's LUNDEN 25. LUNDEN 25 to get 25% off at checkout. You can shop on snapsupplements.com or you can shop on my website, lifelikeLondon.com/supplements. And you'll see there's already an additional 10% taken off. But you, because you're a podcast listener, you're going to get 25% off when you use the code Lunden25 at checkout. LUNDEN 25 at checkout to get your Snap Supplements, Super Greens, and collagen, and all your Snap supplements for 25% off. Now, let's get back to the show.
Yes. So in a work situation where you have a wood leader, wood needs momentum and they need their team to have momentum and everyone to keep moving. But what happens is in many cases, you're not going to have a lot of wood staff members that are equally wood friendly within their own energy. They have different speeds and different needs for engagement, and they can find that wood speed intimidating and scary. And so rather than slow down and ask you the question for clarity, they're afraid of what it feels like to see you react to being slowed down. And so they avoid the question.
Ooh. Fear of the way you might react to being slowed down. When you said that, then I felt like there was like a whole timeline of my whole life. And then I could think about different moments where, yeah, that could have definitely, I am excited to work on becoming the person that doesn't create environments where people can feel that way. But I've definitely been responsible for that outcome in situations for sure.
Yeah. And that's wood. It's not personal. It's that if you look at your scores, your 5 elements assessment results, and you see where does your wood fall in line of the 5, if it's your 3rd, 4th, or 5th one, you have an aversion to speed. And speed in decision making, speed in body movement, speed in planning, coming up with ideas, speed in any level of the way we engage, on this planet. If it's your primary, it brings you comfort, and the lack of it is highly uncomfortable. And so this understanding these helps you reveal exactly why relationships go sour. And why, and what to do about it also. So like baked in here is not only, here's what to look out for, Lunden, but also, if you were to say like, okay, I've got one person who does this, and this always happens when we're together, I can tell you exactly how to engage with that person so that you both engage with a growth mindset and empathy every time you interact. So, but that's kind of like what to look out for in building this life that you want to live as a leader in these two spaces at the same time without going into burnout.
Yes. Because burnout's just not fun. And I want to have fun and feel good throughout this experience in a way where I don't want to say I didn't have fun before. I just, didn't stop and smell the roses, for lack of better terms. It was just like, we're going, and like freight train has been moving, and we don't take breaks unless we like our physical body like forces us to. And so just wanting to do better. I think that's all we can do is learn and grow and do things better the next time, should we get the next opportunity. And I can see how this would be so helpful. And I'm sure this happens a lot with your client base or practice, for couples to do this, for couples to learn their archetypes and, figure out how to navigate a better relationship, better communication, better understanding. Because sometimes we don't see it from any other perspective other than our own. And we're thinking, why is this person this way, or how, or like and I can see how this would be such a fun activity. I think, well, at least in my model of the world, it would be fun to do this in a relationship. Absolutely. But maybe, anyone listening, whether it's even, and I think too, even, within our teams, right? Like relationships within teams, romantic relationships, it's just so helpful to learn more about our own selves. But then when we can do it in a partnership and something that feels safe, or even with my friend Allie, like I'm excited. I'm so excited actually to call her and text her after our conversation and just like, oh yeah, and especially people you have history with, where it's like, yeah, remember when and to like laugh at it a little bit. Like you mentioned, I mean, I think it's playful. I think this stuff is information, and it can be so helpful to dive in and discuss with others that we're in contact with, that we're in relationship with. And then also to use it as something to just have your own like internal spidey senses for yourself and others too, to like, understand if, I don't want it to be that, what you mentioned, of people being afraid of stopping the momentum. I want them to be excited to like step on board and go at a pace that's maybe a little bit of a stretch for them than they're used to, but like still feels right, for them. And, I'm really excited about this. Thank you.
I'm glad. And you're right. It's amazing for couples. It's amazing for people who work together to understand each other. And it gives you a deeper empathy, like an instant empathy, and a very specific path for words to say and things to do in those hot button moments. When you're more likely to go into your comfort zone and do the thing that feels good for you, but we don't realize causes pain for everyone around us.
Yep. Yeah. So good. Yeah. I'm so grateful. This was so insightful. And I think, everyone listening, as you went through the different archetypes and the different, I think I love listening to things like this too, as an avid podcast listener, where it just inspires you to learn more about you. And so I really know that those listening, and, feel free to contact us, those listening, and reach out to us and let us know, because I love those moments where you listen and you look things in a different way. And now I'm like, okay, I really want to dive into this for myself. I want to learn more about me through these five archetypes. And it goes beyond, of course, just our conversation. It goes, into the day to day. And so I hope, I'm grateful to you, because I know that those listening feel more inspired to learn more about themselves and take their archetype quiz and figure out and I love what you said too about, it's like, it's just information until you have a problem that you get to infuse this information into. And so I'm assuming that a lot of those resources are available in your book. Where can people learn more from you and that type of thing?
Definitely in the book. And I have a lot of blogs, a lot of little videos on YouTube, and even on our Instagram, these little quick blurbs that give some information. And I do one-on-one coaching, and I do consulting for companies as well. And we're about to launch a do-it-yourself digital curriculum where people will get 2 text messages a day that are customized by their primary element that give them those little reminders in the morning. Like if you're wood, it would say like, Lunden, notice when you're moving too fast today. And then at the end of the day, it gives you a neuroplasticity activity that balances out that need in the mind for speed. But you don't know that it's doing it. It's not like, it's not like the type of therapy. It's not like exposure therapy, like sit down, Lunden, don't move. No, it's like either fire, earth, metal, or water, tiny little activities that strengthen the mind. So yeah, fun stuff.
I love that. Customized based on your archetype to give you like the bookends, a little umph in the start of your day and some ways to balance things out at the end of the day. Genius. I'm super excited for when that's available. I think that will really be, it's great to have, something you can send out to everybody, but to be specific based on a person's structure within their archetypes, I think is just, so valuable. Where can people connect with you? I know you mentioned you had a little freebie offer that you wanted to share with us. So share that with us too. I know everyone's excited to hear it.
I'm offering to fans of Lunden Souza a free Stuck Finder session for 15 minutes. We will talk about your biggest burning question and compare it to your assessment results. And I will identify for you where you're stuck and kind of what needs to shift for you in order to move forward through that obstacle or perceived obstacle. You can find me on my website, careydavidson.com. And there's a contact form there. And and you can do what Lunden did. You can hit me up in the Instagram. In the Instagram.
Instagram DMs. Yeah, just slid right into your DMs, Carey. I could have been asking you on a date or asking you to come on my podcast. Either way. I love Instagram for that. I think there can be, there's always both sides of the coins to, how we use them, but I just have loved the connections through Instagram, including ours. All the links that Carey mentioned, I'll put in the description. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, you can find the description and show notes. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can find it in the description as well. Connect with Carey, get her book, find out your archetypes, and just lean into learning more about you. I think sometimes people can feel scared and exposed when they start learning these types of things, but it's such powerful information for us to connect even deeper with ourselves and others. And just connect with Carey, figure that out. And thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you so much.
Lunden, thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Self-Love and Sweat, the podcast. Hey, do me a favor. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, give us a review. This really helps a lot. And share this with a friend. I'm only one person, and with your help, we can really spread the message of self-love and sweat and change more lives all around the world. I'm Lunden Souza, reminding you that you deserve a life full of passion, presence, and purpose, fueled by self-love and sweat. This podcast is a Hit Spot Austria production.